Here.
Robin Briggs.
Here.
Mr. Mullane.
Yep.
We have our teacher reps, Cookies is here. Steve will not be here tonight, and Shane may be available. I will start by announcing that this meeting is being recorded and can be viewed on Mondays at 7 o'clock on Comcast Channel 8 or Verizon Channel 37. All meeting videos are also posted to the Millis Public Schools website under School Committee. All videos are also available on YouTube. All school committee minutes and agendas can be found on school committee page of the Millis Public School website. Persons wishing to speak during open session must sign in before the meeting starts. Comments are not to exceed 3 minutes in time. Individuals may not name students, staff, or parents. All topics for discussion must be limited to those items listed on this evening's agenda, and all comments must be directed to the chair. The committee may not respond to public comments. It shall be their decision to discuss issues at a later date. Do we have anyone signed up for open session?
No, we don't.
Then let's move to our action items. Consideration to approve the May 30 school committee minutes.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Briggs.
Make a motion to approve the May 30th, 2023 school committee meeting minutes.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, sorry, do we, any chance we could let Ms. Copese
Yes.
do
sorry.
her, that's okay, because I think, do you have
No, I don't have
students?
eighth grader.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, you doing anything with the, oh, would you like to go
I mean,
anyway?
we can still let her go.
So you can be
Still let her
done?
go.
So you can go home?
Yeah, go home.
I was just going back to my classroom.
Order to read.
All right, this is my last one for this school year. I won't be here in 2 weeks. And neither will Mr. Catalan. Oh, no, he will be here. I won't be here, so he'll be very quiet. All right, so the CFB had their fun run celebration, and the students voted on ways to incorporate their administrators into it. So apparently Mrs. Malloy had 5 buckets of ice water dumped on her.
Oh.
And Mrs. Django had to dress up like Shrek and do the chicken dance. The 4th and 5th graders were the ones who made this determination. Fun was had by all. The cereal box domino rally did happen. They had 200 boxes in it that they then donated to the food pantry. And the 5th graders earlier today had their promotion ceremony in the gym at 1:30 p.m. And tomorrow, the remaining grade levels, K through 4, will have their step-up days progressively through the morning. This evening, just shortly from now, is the 8th grade promotion ceremony, which I always thought should be called a step-down ceremony since they get to come down a level, but no one likes that, so we'll just move on with it. So I ran into a bunch of them in the hallway. They were all very excited. They've been exploring in the afternoons, I have to say. It's been a fun, like, they've been like sneaking down since the high schoolers aren't here. And congratulations to Harrison Lower, who placed first at the middle school state track meet. This was his first year doing track, and he, in the high jump, cleared 5 feet 6 inches, which is pretty darn impressive in my opinion. At the high school, we've been super busy. Since I last saw you, we had graduation, which was a lovely evening. There were some very nice speeches given. The class speakers were Frankie Pizzarella and Sam Congalvez, which they did a really nice job of reminding our students of why they're so lucky to go to Millis. I think it was a really nice speech. We had underclassmen awards on Monday. So the sophomores and the freshmen were hosted by Mr. Mullany in the gymnasium, and Mr. Audicki handled the juniors in the auditorium. We've finished up our SRP presentations, and the team all agreed that we felt like these were our best presentations even compared to pre-COVID. Like, we really just felt like, I'm not sure whether students got used to talking on camera or what the deal was, but just by and far, or whether it was like the approved auditorium facility and the nice new podium, but the kids really did a phenomenal job this time. And they all said how much they enjoyed listening and hearing what all of their classmates had been working on for the last 6 months, so that was a positive. We have finals going on right now. So tomorrow is our last final, and then we have our makeup session in the morning. And then, of course, everybody is done at the end of the school day tomorrow. Tomorrow is the official last day of school. TIES has reported out that they've had a busy end to their year. A student recently turned 22 and graduated into a paid job with the Millis Fire Department. We've had a student successfully complete a full year at BSU through the Excel program. 2 students celebrated their 1-year anniversary of having paid employment, and another student has been successfully employed at Ryan's Family Amusement for the last couple months and is driving to and from work after getting their driver's license. So I have to admit, it's been really nice hearing about what's been going on in ties this year. At the Norfolk County Teachers Association dinner, we honored 2 members of our faculty and staff. Glenn Pansiaco and Laura Doherty received recognition at that event. And let's see, on a sad note, we are recognizing the loss of 2 longtime retired staff members from Clyde Brown. Mrs. Donna Collins and Mrs. Mary Yuk passed away in May. So they wanted me to put that out there. And athletics has come to a close for the year. We had tennis, baseball, and softball all qualifying for the state tournament. Baseball and softball hosting a round 32 game before they falling out of the Sweet 16. Indoor track, Jackson Borst and Men McCarthy qualified for the state meet. And our TVL All-Stars are Olivia Fong for girls tennis, Frankie Pizzarella and Riley Caulfield for softball, Jack Catalano for baseball, Luke Bennett for boys volleyball, Jane Connors, Jack Borst, and Ben McCarthy for indoor track and field. And then boys track and field and baseball also won league sportsmanship awards. Fall 2023 registration is open and gut camp starts on July 10th. So that's it for tonight, folks. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Yeah, happy summer.
Oh, I
Yeah,
will.
happy summer. Enjoy.
I shall.
Thank you.
Action item, consideration to appoint signers for bills over the summer months. So we have gotten into the habit of putting 2 official signers and then the rest of us as alternates. I'm happy to be one.
I can do the other one.
Okay.
Should we bring them up to your camp?
You want?
We have to actually take a vote. Or maybe we could.
For it to be 2?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll only have the other 2 results, right? Because we won't have a replacement, right? For Steve? Okay.
I can, yeah, is he officially stepping down?
Yeah, he's the one who's resigned as of June 30th.
Okay.
So name your
So just
alternate.
do it for
Yeah, just for now, and
Shayna and Robert. Okay, Mr. Chair. I make a motion to appoint Mark Conroy and Denise Gibbons as the 2 primary signers for bills for the summer months, starting June 30th through September 15th, with Robin Briggs and Shayna Canistrari as alternates.
second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
And then just on that note too, I'll send an email out. If we have to have like a meeting in July or August, what people's away from the meeting.
Okay.
We can also do,
Okay. Yeah, I can do
Usually
that.
we just try and do at least one scheduled
Yeah.
in July. and
Yeah.
then one in August, just to have these.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. Then next is consideration to approve 2.6 grant funded FD positions for 23-24 school year, 2 special ed teachers and 0.6 ELL positions. We have a memo in our packet, so I'll turn it over to Mr. Miller.
Thanks. Yeah, so last meeting, under new business, we talked about, we found the amount we were getting for the evidence-based grant that Maureen Knowlton and Neely Urquhart applied for, and we will be receiving $150,000 for FY24, $150,000 for FY25, and that grant is to support co-teaching through providing collaboration, training, and some staffing. we had hoped to be able to fund the 2.6 positions in the evidence-based grant, but we learned last week that they would support limited staffing, but not all the staffing that we had hoped to provide. So, and the purpose of the grant, as I said, is to support co-teaching, particularly to support English language learners and students with disabilities, hence the 2.6 special ed and EL positions. What our plan would be with these positions is to hire special education teachers at grade kindergarten and grade 4. That's where we have the biggest caseloads. And a 0.6 EL would be an extension of a part-time EL teacher we have now. And the rationale behind it is we've seen an increase in the number of students with disabilities and English language learners over the past 3 years. And as part of our the Student Opportunity Act plan, we are focusing on high-need student subgroups and closing the gaps between those groups and all students. And the grant itself promotes inclusion, so you know, we find inclusion leads to higher academic achievement for students with disabilities and ELL students, and co-teaching for inclusion is an evidence-based practice. Currently, over at Clyde Brown, inclusion practices are limited, and the majority of special education and ESL services are provided in a pull-out model. So this would allow us to, co-teaching would reduce the number of kids pulled out from their inclusion classroom. The strategies and funding for co-teaching inclusion would be creating a schedule that provides time for co-teaching models and common planning time, professional development, high leverage strategies grounded in universal design for learning and culturally responsive and sustaining practices, and some coaching for those involved. We'd hope to establish one co-teaching team at each level, K to 5, consisting of a special educator and a general educator, and then 2 teams consisting of an ESL teacher and a general education educator. And this would all be at Clyde Brown. Current staffing, K to 5, does not support the schedules for co-teaching due to the current budget shortfall and anticipated lack of funding for additional staffing in FY '24 and '25. We sought this grant funding in January in order to continue to improve education for students, provide professional development, and address gaps despite some of the budget constraints we have. So we propose using the evidence-based grant for a 1.6 FTEs and the IDEA grant, which is special ed grant, 240 for 1.0 FTEs in order to address the achievement gap through co-teaching. We plan to analyze the budget priorities over the next 2 years to determine if, you know, if the data demonstrates we have great success with this. What we'd hope to see is maybe fewer students requiring IEP services, because in the co-teaching model, it could provide Tier 1 and Tier 2 supports. And so after the grant expires, we'd be looking at whether or not those positions would be something we'd either add to the operating budget or, you know, reduce other staff positions to keep those positions. So we don't know that at this point. We want to see what the results of the grant are. So these positions would not come from the operating budget. They would be totally grant funded.
Questions? So, Mr. Malay,
Yes.
it's somewhat changed from when because we got new information on what
Right.
we could spend. So originally, we had thought that the full 150,000 could go towards staffing.
Right.
And we found out we can't, that there's an
We have
amount.
we have a carryover to about $24,000, maybe even a little more. And we originally were under the impression that we could use all of it for staffing. But we've learned subsequently, since our last meeting, we've learned that some of those funds has to be dedicated to professional development, materials and training, which, you know, we can utilize some of that money, which would, which comes, the IDEA grant has funded some of that over the years, so we thought we could save some money in the IDEA grant by having those costs shifted over to the 117 grant, thus creating some space in the 240 grant, the IDEA grant, to cover that 1.0 position, that new position.
So we can fund 1.6 out of the new grant, and then the plan is or the proposal would be to utilize the rest of that grant for things we had already budgeted, just in a different bucket.
Different grant, right.
Which basically results in essence, freeing up 66,000 or 62,000 of what we had originally planned to spend out of the IDEA grant. I question whether we should hire that last FTE out of the IDEA grant, given one, it would allow us to, most likely, we're going to need that for a move-in at some point during the year. That's just the way life goes. The flip side, too, is we have $400,000 in stabilization fund from the town that if we found grant funding to help offset, which is in essence what we're doing with that $62,000, that if we got to the end of the year and didn't need it, we could reduce how much came out of stabilization. Again, I think the likelihood is we're going to need that $62,000 at some point during the year, and it very well may fall into this grade-wise what the proposal is. I'm reluctant to add FTEs. One, my concern ultimately with this program, I think it's a great pilot. I think that we would be foolish to not take the $150,000 and use it for what it's intended for, including staffing. But I'm looking down the road 3 years, and I am pessimistic that we're going to find a way to add $150,000 on top of our normal growth rate to add these positions. So I think it's a great pilot, but I think I would support the 1.6 and leaving the 62,000 alone in our IDEA grant in order to, hire those 1 or 2 pairs that we're going to need at some point for a move-in, or an increased IEP, or whether it's a full-time staff member that we need at some point. That's my opinion. I don't know what other people think.
Yeah, I would I would agree with that. I agree with the concerns on the long-term challenge of having 2.6. I think, 2.6 is a great pilot. I think we probably, I don't know what other people think. Yeah, I would agree with that. I agree with the concerns on the long-term challenge of having 2.6. I think, 2.6 is a great pilot. I think we probably, I don't know what other people think. right? 2.6 it would be? Yeah, of having 2.6 added. If we can do it with 1.6 and still meet the needs of what the grant requires in order to be able to spend it. And if we have any opportunity, as Mark said, to have something that we could allocate towards what will likely happen over the course of the year, or best case scenario, we have some funds to be able to reduce the amount that we have to borrow from the town. If we could pull that off, I'd be in favor of doing that. I'm just worried with adding I'm just worried with adding headcount. I just have a big concern with adding headcount right now. And if there's a way that we could still add some in order to be able to take advantage of the program, but maybe not spend it all, I guess.
And we had, as an administrative team, we had talked about just the 1.6. We do just 1.6. And 1.6 is better than nothing. We felt that the additional 1.0 could give us, we'd be advertising for a teacher to start the year rather than the middle of the year. The pool might be a little different. Understanding that with the new information we got from the grant, we'd have to go into the IDA grant to get that extra 1.0 to get us to 2.6.
I agree.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I agree with both of you. I have the same feelings and concerns.
I just want to make sure that we're able to use the funds later down the road for that. Like, what are the requirements for each of the grants? Like, are we allowed to?
So the 117, the evidence-based grant, is very specific. It's
Yep.
about supporting co-teaching through staffing and PD, and would be having a coach come in and work with the staff. The IDEA grant is a larger grant and doesn't have as many restrictions. So we use the IDEA grant, some for staffing, some for training, and it's a pretty significant grant. We don't know right now what our FY24 amount is going to be. We've budgeted for it being similar to what it was this year, which historically it's been in that ballpark.
So it's okay to leave that chunk of money to spend as needed through the school year?
We could allocate it,
At any
in our
point during the
budgeting.
year? At any point
Yeah,
during
we
the
can
year?
do amendments to the budget.
Yeah, I didn't know
to
what the rules are
to the,
for
to
the
the
grant.
but
like-
we send in a budget for the grant allocating the
Mhm.
funds, but we can file amendments during the year as things change.
Sure. Okay.
Any other questions, comments? I would take a motion.
Do you want a motion on what's on the table,
I want
or
a
is that up to
motion.
me?
That is up to you.
What kind of motion I would like to make?
You get to make whatever motion you would like.
Jeepers, thanks. Okay, I make a motion to a motion to consider approval. No,
Motion to
I make a
approve.
motion to approve 1.6 grant-funded FTE positions for school year 23-24.
From the
For
evidence-
one special ed position and 0.6 ELL position
From the evidence-based practice grant?
from the ID, yeah.
No, the
Evidence-based
evidence-based
practice grant.
practice grant.
117 is the
Okay.
number.
Sorry but you get it? Okay, thank you.
Good.
It gets confusing when you get into
I don't know how you guys
the
keep it all
numbers and the
straight.
names.
I don't look at it.
It's been moved and seconded.
Second?
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Next is consideration to approve proposed handbook changes. Mr. Mulaney.
And I sent the principals had sent their proposed changes. The majority of the proposed changes are not substantive, a lot of them are formatting and language. So I'll just kind of go through them quickly, and then if you have questions, I can address them. So I'll start with the Clyde Brown, and they're working on the formatting and, working on the table of contents, so it's hyperlinked, and then the normal adjustments to the names and so forth in the handbook. Then within the handbook itself, the district announcements, for the proposed language on district announcements on page 9, they just want to remove the Facebook page that's indicated in the current handbook because it's not a page created by the school. The school day procedures, they're just putting it in a different location on page 9. Dismissal refers to students rather than buses. The PBIS just talks about the change in format from individual students earning bear paws and rewards and having school-based rewards as well. And as a school, the language I'd like to add, as a school, CFB students earn school-wide rewards after receiving a specific number of bears in each month. These school-wide rewards help to build community and teamwork through the school, as Ms. Copice described. Dumping ice water on Ms. Malloy and making Ms. Django dress up as Shrek are all part of that program. The consequences for dangerous, destructive, and disrespectful behaviors, they would remove the part that talks about a referral being entered into our school-wide information system database. We don't need the office referrals to be in those places. The procedures will still be the same, and they will be addressed, and parents will be notified. It just won't go on your permanent record. Emergency information, that's basically some language clarifying. Illness at school, removing language about getting taxis for kids.
Don't want to just change it to Uber?
Right.
That's what I was going to say.
So we work with folks to figure out transportation in the event the parent can't get a kid. The FLES, just using the term world language rather than foreign language. It's the more current term.
Yep.
The digital literacy curriculum, that had been something that was co-taught with the classroom teachers. That is something now that's handled, the classes are taught by the technology integration specialists. And that's an area we worked on in the last contract, and that having the technology integration specialist teaching the classes frees up the classroom teachers for meetings and so forth, collaboration time. Physical education and health, the opt-out forms are electronic, so things don't need to be returned to the main office, and same thing with the passive permission for photography and videotaping students. That's a online form. Report cards, we do them at Clyde Brown 2 times a year, and so that is reflected in the new language, and also talks about the additional conferences that are available at Clyde Brown during the year. Extended day just gives specific hours, and the curriculum night, it's basically just correcting some language, making it read better. I believe that is it for Clyde Brown. I don't know if any questions on Clyde Brown. Okay. And then the middle school, just some updates that we kind of have to put in there. The responsible use policy that school committee approved earlier this year will be put, replace the old acceptable use policy. And then the update to Mass General Laws, Chapter 71, 37, H and 3/4, which deals with discipline and suspensions. And the main change in this is a new law that was updated in November of 2022, so it was new. We need to put it on the books. Basically, the difference between the old 37 H and 3/4 and the new 37 H and 3/4 is the old law said if a principal's going to suspend a kid, the principal should use discretion when using suspension and so forth for items that are not felonies or 37H and a half, which is drugs, weapon, or assaulting a staff member. These are the kind of lesser suspension offenses. And the old law said use discretion when going towards suspension. The new law takes some of that discretion away from principals and assistant principals and says they shall not suspend or expel a student until alternative remedies have been employed and their use and results are documented. So it basically it makes it
Impossible.
more difficult for
Harder.
a principal to suspend a student. I think it's one of those examples where they make a law for everyone because of a few districts
Yeah.
firing kids out left and right.
Yeah.
But now we're, so it's the law, so we'll abide by it and we'll put it in our handbooks. So that was the changes in the middle school. And then the high school, just some additional language as they've developed their vision of a graduate. So that would be included in the handbook. Some updates to the custodial parent notification. Just some clarifying language there. Just on page 6, parent-student involvement section to include merit, and just, again, kind of wordsmithing that. Page 10 on the schedule, just updating it. We used to have an 8-day schedule. Now we have a 10-day cycle in the high school. So just updating that. The NHS, page 16 on the National Honor Society, just updating the process of how student applications are reviewed. And page 18, because of the new schedule, we no longer have the quote-unquote double period. So we don't have to give 2 detentions if you skip the double period. You just get 1 detention if you skip 1 period. That's all there is. And hopefully we don't have kids skipping periods, so we don't have to use this section of the handbook. Page 21, replace the AUP with the responsible use policy. Page 21, this is something that kind of...
Is this a problem?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is.
says it.
Add a line to the lavatory procedure to address multiple students in one stall, which has been an issue in the last few years. And it usually comes down to people who like to share vaping pens, like to do it in a confined area. They don't want to be out there by the sink, so they all go into one stall.
Keep the smoke contained.
So we want to be clear that that's not acceptable. Stalls are 1 person only. 29, just new language around locker assignments. A lot of the kids in the high school don't want lockers. So instead of saying you will get a locker, it's if you would like a locker, you will get one, and you'll you know, you can request a locker at the beginning of the year, and we will happily give you one.
Are they just carrying their stuff all?
They just carry that. They don't have as many big books because of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Chromebooks and stuff. But some of the older kids, if they drive or they have a friend who drives, they keep stuff in their car. Not that they run out to their car to get stuff, but they just kind of carry their stuff around. And some of them can't be bothered with a locker. They wear, it's very interesting because like the middle school kids, when they get to middle school, that's the big deal. They get a locker finally. So it's a big deal up there, and then when they come down here, like, I don't want a locker. So, but if they want a locker, they get a locker. It's really helped out towards the end of the year with locker clean out in the high school. It's a breeze now. Page 37 is the 37H and 3/4 law, same as the middle school. And then on page 40, the addition of a new search policy. We don't have a search policy currently, although we do have the right to search, and we do search kids if there is reasonable suspicion to believe that they're possessing something that they should not have on school grounds, drugs, alcohol, weapon, etc. But we don't have a written policy, and what has sometimes happens is when you have reasonable suspicion to search a student, the student will refuse, and when that happens, what we've generally done is said, well, if you're refusing the search, then I have to assume that what you have on you is in one of the, is what I think you have on you, and so the suspension would follow. So this would clarify it. We will run the policy by school attorney to make sure it passes that muster, but we don't enjoy searching kids, but sometimes in our responsibility as school administrators, we have to.
Can we, a bit of semantics, but can we call this a search procedure or protocol? Because it's not a policy. If it's a policy, then we should put it as
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
an actual policy that we
Good
go through first and second readings and things.
So we'll say search protocol. Good point.
Why is this only in the high school handbook and not in the other one?
It probably could be in the other, because we do from time to time have to search middle school students as well. Yeah, yeah.
Probably should
Good
go
point.
in.
Yeah.
If we're,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Yep.
I hate to say it, I feel like it should just be consistent across all the
Yeah.
schools.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
And like right now, the most common thing kids are getting searched for is if they've been suspected of vaping.
Sure.
The vape detectors in the bathroom now.
Yep.
So, yeah, so we can add that to we'll add it to Clyde Brown.
Who does the searching?
It has to be an administrator, it can't be a teacher.
Does it say that in here?
No, we could add something to that effect.
Okay, I think maybe so that they know who is doing
Yeah.
it. It just says like,
Yeah.
refusal to allow the administration to do it, but.
Yeah.
Can I just ask something real quick? They have to be searched by the same sex?
No, generally we have two people in the room, and if you have someone of the same sex, that's kind of the thing. But usually, like, the search is usually the back, like, we have kids turn their pockets inside out, take off your shoes, stuff like that. We don't pat them down. I was in another district where there was a student was suspected of having a weapon, and couldn't find it, but the kid was seen with something. So in that case, when it was a weapon, the police came in and conducted a search. But generally speaking, we don't have the police. The school resource officer doesn't do searches unless it would be like a big safety concern. It's done by administration. And actually, administration has, we have, like, police have a higher standard. They have probable cause. We have reasonable suspicion. So,
And when the police search them, the other rules come into play, laws that are
yeah.
different.
And when we do find drugs, alcohol, well, obviously weapons, we inform the police of all those things. But generally speaking, the administration conducts the search, not teachers, not the SRO. So I think that's a good point.
Maybe we could approve it contingent on Andy's review, contingent on council's review.
Yeah.
Just to make sure, like,
Yeah.
there might be some other things
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
they can
he
make
puts in
some
there.
Yeah,
tweaks to it.
yeah,
Or,
Yes, we
Yeah,
have.
they'd have, yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
we have.
we've done, yeah. And if Andy thinks that it would also be a good idea for us to just make this a formal policy, we can do that too. It won't take,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
well, yeah, but like if he says, you know what, make it a formal policy,
Yeah.
and here's the search policy that, is out there,
Right.
we can just, between now and the summer, we can get it, and it can go in both places.
And just on the dogs, when the dogs come in, they're not like German Shepherds. They're not mean. They're the cutest little dogs. They're trained to do it. And, it's interesting.
We had to, when I was in high school, we had to put a backpack on the hallway for the dogs to come through while we were in our class.
We've had
Would a
dogs-
dog typically be brought in due to you guys seeing a lot of, whether it's vaping or whatever going on? Like, what triggers?
Yeah, but before COVID, we pretty much did it every year.
I was gonna say.
And we'll probably get back to
Surprise.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, these kids deserve to go to a school that doesn't have drugs.
Yes.
So, that's why we do it. Again, it's just like, we don't like searching kids. We don't like, we hope when the dogs come, it's over in 20 minutes and everyone goes back to class and, but we want to make sure, to the extent that we can, that we don't have drugs in our schools.
All right.
that's it.
Any other questions? So I would take a motion. We can do all in one, like all three, pending
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Briggs.
I would make a motion to approve the proposed handbook changes pending review from council on the search procedures for all the schools.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Excellent. All right. Next is consideration to approve cafeteria meal prices for next year. Food service. Mr. Wigan.
My effort to be efficient, you have one memo for two things.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And let's talk about the meal prices first, because the reason they're before you is they need to be part of the amendment. Each year when we do that, we have to set meal prices that will be part of the amendment. We can leave them the same or we change them. There's something called the price equity tool that the federal government requires us to do every year. And that tells us where our prices should be. And I think on the second page of the memo, you can see what the analysis showed. And it showed that the breakfast, which is currently $175, should be at $206. Elementary lunch, which is $275, should be at $356. Middle school, high school lunch, which is at $3, should also be at $3.56. It doesn't differentiate between elementary and middle high school. And then it doesn't deal with premium lunches or adult lunches. Those are our creations. So it really focuses on those three lunches, if you will, those three meals. What I'm recommending to you, and this is consistent with what Chartwell's is also recommending, is that for the breakfast, we go to $2. It's a little bit under what the price equity tool is suggesting. That at the elementary lunch, we move up a quarter to $3. And that at the middle high school lunch, we do jump 50 cents to $3.50. In all three cases, we would be under the price equity tool, but we would be showing movement. Now, the question arises, how does that come into play when there's a strong likelihood that it will be free meals for everybody? The fact of the matter is, it doesn't until free meals goes away. But what it does do is it tells the federal government that we are moving in this direction. And it does impact the amount of money that we would get from the federal government by showing that we did the work that the federal government is requiring of us, because not every state has free meals. And what they would come back and say is, well, you still have work to do to get where you ought to be, but we're still going to reimburse you at the normal levels for federal reimbursement for meals. And generally speaking, and I've been, again, you guys know how long I've been doing this, as long as you keep making progress towards getting to where the price equity tool shows that you ought to be, they will not penalize you. It's when you don't make progress or you can't show progress, that's when they will really come down on you and say, you know what, you're not going to get any federal reimbursement. And federal reimbursement is the bulk of the reimbursement that you get under the child nutrition program.
So is the price equity price the federal price?
Yeah, that would be, well, it's, the price equity tool is a federal price, and what basically the federal government is saying.
Okay, yeah.
Federal government in essence is saying that your breakfast should be $2.06 and your lunches should be $3.56.
Okay.
That is
Now-
what the federal government
Now,
is
is that determined by your community and different things? So, or is that just the standard rate across?
The whole country, it should be that.
It's pretty standard. It does vary a little bit by region because of the cost of food and various other goods that go into the analysis. But for the most part, you're not going to see a lot of variation.
But
I
it's
would-
not like our price versus a Boston or,
Oh, no, our price versus
Okay.
Boston is going to be, should be this, very similar. I mean, there might be pennies difference, but there won't be huge swaths of difference.
is there a reimbursement penalty for not going, especially if we're with the extreme likelihood that it's going to be free for all? Is there a reimbursement benefit to going the extra, 6 cents or 50 cents, 56 cents?
No, as long as you're showing progress, they're used to school districts, and particularly during the pandemic, wanting to keep prices down. And so now you're trying to do makeup, and they recognize that people can't, make up everything in one fell swoop. So as long as you're showing each year some progress towards getting to wherever the price equity tool says you should be in that given year, you'll be fine. They're not gonna penalize you as long as they see you making progress. The whole idea is, from the federal government standpoint, they want to see that you're charging what they feel is a reasonable amount of money to recoup and be able to generate, I hate to call it a profit, let's call it a fund balance, because that's really what it is, so that your program can keep
Yeah,
operating
self-sustaining.
say what?
It's self-sustaining.
It's self-sustaining,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
You know, ideally, they want you to have 3 months of operating funds in that fund balance in case something like, and we learned with the pandemic, the pandemic happens and you have to deal with some crises.
I wish that there was an out-of-district tuition PE analysis here for us, and that the federal government was working on that,
It's a good idea.
because that would make more sense.
All right.
Okay, what's the other thing?
Well, no, it's
increased food
basically,
cost.
I think you can, I've given you a motion which would cover both.
Okay.
So I think if you use my motion, basically it authorizes me
food cost.
to sign an amendment, including the meal prices as recommended. So unless you want to change those meal prices, that motion will work.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Givens.
I make a motion that the school committee authorize the Director of School Finance and Human Resources to sign an amendment to the current food service management company contract with Chartwells, a subsidiary of Compass USA, as presented, including meal prices as recommended.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Thank you.
carries. Thanks,
Thank
Terry.
you, Terry.
Sure.
All right, so I think that's it. Then teacher reps, that's all of our action items. Just, move down to the chair report. MSBA project update.
So I'll go first, then I'll hand it to Mr. Mulaney because they had an event here at the school yesterday.
Yeah,
so
we
that-
had the tour
Yeah.
yesterday at 10 o'clock. We had representatives, 9 representatives from 7 firms who indicated an interest in being the owner's project manager for the school project. So we gave them the tour of the building. They were able to ask questions of the principals, of John Engler, and they left some of them left cards, which I can give to whoever needs them. But we also have information on their companies and their contact information, and they'd be able to submit questions to the board as the process moves on.
And the request for services was in the central register last Wednesday. It was available within the first 24 hours. We got 14 requests for the request for services. So that's interest from 14 different firms. As Bob mentioned, they hosted 7 individual firms yesterday. And a week from tomorrow, the proposals are due, the 21st. And then we go into a little bit of a sprint for the next 6 weeks in reviewing proposals and deciding who's the top 3 are and interviewing them and picking one and going to the MSBA. So the way that the plan is right now, August 7th, the first week in August, we would go to the MSBA with our recommended first choice. So we'll publish some things for the public in case anybody would like to come when we interview the 3 finalists. But that will be mid-July. So, yeah. Yep. Thank you, Bob and John and the principals and Terry for hosting
Thank you
yesterday.
for all your
That's huge.
organizing to get this thing going. It's a lot.
So, it's moving.
All right, there's no budget update, so superintendent report, June enrollment.
Okay, so our enrollment for June, let's see. Okay, so Clyde Brown, we're at 624 students. The middle school, 269, 312 at the high school, 7 at Ties, and actually, as Ms. Copese mentioned, 1 student graduated last week. So we're at 6, but we'll be starting next year with probably 1, maybe 2 students tuitioning in. So that's
Nice.
good. The program's
Yeah.
strong, and then we have 22 out-of-district students. That number stayed stable. So the total in district is 1,212, and the total in the entire district, including the out-of-district, is 1,234. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice way to end the year.
There you
1, 2,
go.
3, 4.
Yeah.
All right. No correspondence, any announcements, no new business. Our next meeting will be June 27th, right here. So that's all we have for tonight.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Gibbons,
I make a motion to adjourn?
moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.